Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Coast News. And as always, we've got some amazing news from different theme parks, rides, attractions and events all over the world. So let's get straight into the news today. Our top story for tonight: Universal Studios Japan have announced that their Donkey Kong Country expansion of Super Nintendo World will officially open in spring 2024. And this is going to be probably one of the greatest innovations for any theme park or roller coaster technology on the planet in recent history. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically Super Nintendo World is a themed land which opened at Universal Studios Japan in February 2021. Obviously it's themed to the Super Mario Bros. Franchise, although and obviously it is one of 3 Super Nintendo worlds that are supposed to open at Universal resorts across the planet, with the most recent one opening at Universal Studios Hollywood earlier this year, and a brand new one set to open at Universal's Epic Universe in 2025. And obviously they're heavily themed lands, with multiple different attractions themed to the whole Super Mario Bros. Franchise, including obviously the Mario Kart ride, which has got augmented reality in it, which is I don't think has ever been done on a themed attraction before. And there's a lot of interactive elements to it as well, so it's obviously a really cool area. But obviously, each area or each version of the area is only opening in phases. So obviously, there's the first part of the land, which is all themed around sort of like the Mushroom Kingdom side of like the Mario games, which obviously opened first, and then the second phase, I like to call it, is always going to be the Donkey Kong Country part of the whole land, featuring a brand new. Each version of the land is going to feature a brand new roller coaster, called a boom coaster, I think, which is basically a brand new type of roller coaster where the rails is actually a single rail concept, I think, or 2 rails, but basically the rails are flipped on the side. So like the train is imagine the train is sort of on the side of the track, above, but on the corner of the track, and it's like a sort of thin rail on the side of the train, but it has like a fake rail underneath it. It's like a fake themed sort of minecart rail thing, so it can create the illusion of actually jumping the tracks. And it's obviously a really innovative and really cool concept that's never been done before. And the first one of these rides is going to be opening in the Super Nintendo World at Universal Japan next spring. And it's going to be absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited to see what this actually looks like in person, this type of ride. It's going to look really cool. And I cannot wait to see the new Donkey Kong ride open at Universal Studios Japan next season. In other news today, the lift hill for Iron Menace at Dorney Park has officially gone vertical. And this ride is going to be probably really important for Dorney Park when it opens next season. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically Iron Menace is a brand new B&M dive coaster. It's a mini dive coaster, so it's a smaller variation, opening at Dorney Park in Pennsylvania, United States in 2024. It is the first roller coaster that's actually supposed to open at Dorney Park since Stinger, which opened back in 2012. But obviously since Stinger opened, the park's seen not a lot of investment at all, really. They've not got any coasters since Stinger. If you don't know what Stinger is, it was a Vekoma Invertigo coaster, which is basically like a Vekoma boomerang, but it's inverted. It's an inverted coaster, but it's a boomerang. But that only operated for 5 years. They removed it in 2017. They literally closed their newest roller coaster after 5 years, and that's not a good sign at all. So their current newest operating coaster is Possessed, which is an intimate impulse coaster. That's obviously the same layout as the now defunct Wicked Twister at Cedar Point. That opened back in 2008. But obviously, earlier this year, Dorney Park announced that they were getting a brand new B&M dive coaster opening next season called Iron Menace. Obviously, it's going to be of the shorter variation layout. Well, I mean smaller layout, because obviously the old B&M dive coasters are pretty short in layout, but it's going to be I think it's going to be about 150 foot tall. It's not going to be any of the massive ones. I think about it, there hasn't been any B&M dive coasters over 200 feet built since Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland. That's currently the world's largest B&M dive coaster. But yeah, obviously Iron Menace is opening next year. The main thing about it is it's the second B&M dive coaster ever to have a beyond vertical drop. Because obviously we know Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger opened last season at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, which has a 95-degree drop. This is also going to have a 95-degree drop, but that's just like insane, the fact that B&M dive coasters are essentially turning into Gerstlauer Eurofighters with the beyond vertical drops. Obviously, it looks like a really fun ride. From what I've heard, a lot of these like mini dive coasters are probably more fun to ride than the larger scale ones, probably because the pacing's a bit faster. So obviously, on the larger scale dive coasters, you have these like long, drawn out elements, but there's no forces to them. Of the miniature ones, there is. But either way, I can't wait for Iron Menace to open at Dorney Park in 2024. Also in the news today, the first section of track for Minifigure Speedway at Legoland Windsor has officially gone into place. And this ride, it looks like it's going to be really good for Legoland actually. And it's probably going to be their best attraction when it opens, or at least their best coaster anyway. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically Minifigure Speedway is a brand new dueling roller coaster. It's a dueling shuttle coaster opening at Legoland Windsor in 2024. It is being manufactured by German manufacturer Sierra, which is strange because we all thought it was going to be built by Vekoma because it obviously resembles like a boomerang style of Vekoma family boomerang layout. But obviously it's being built by Sierra. Obviously it's going to be a dueling layout, so it's going to have two tracks that's going to intertwine with each other. Obviously it's going to start with the backwards lift hill out of the station up to the highest point on the ride, both tracks, and it's going to drop back down that lift hill when it gets to the highest point. There's nothing at the top of that lift hill, it's just like the end of the track. It's going to go back through the station, all through like loads of like new twists and turns, and it's going to interact with the other train every single time. It's going to go up to another spike next to the respective lift hills and go back through the layout back into the station. Now Legoland have stated it's going to be their fastest roller coaster at 38 miles an hour, which obviously for a roller coaster isn't like generally fast. For a family coaster that's a pretty average speed. But for Legoland, that's their fastest attraction, even faster than the Dragon, which obviously up until next year was going to be like the biggest coaster at Legoland, even like it's a small kiddie coaster now that I think about it. But obviously this Minifigure Speedway is going to just like be, compared to the other rides, pretty intimidating, even though it's just a family coaster, and obviously people like me and a lot of enthusiasts have been on like hyper coasters and whatnot. I'm going to be scared of this thing, but like, look, it's going to be quite a big step up, which I'm glad they're doing. Because I know there's only like, up until 2020, there was only two coasters at Legoland, the last one being The Dragon's Apprentice, which was in 1999, I believe. The way they've been doing it recently, they built Duplo Dino Coaster in 2020 to fill in a sort of gap of, okay, Duplo Dino Coaster is literally for like the smallest sort of age demographic. Dragon's Apprentice is slightly tamer, but it's still sort of in that range. Dragon's a bit more intense. Obviously that was the most intense coaster, even though it's still like a family coaster. But they're building up to like different age demographics, and now just taking it a step up with Minifigure Speedway, which is going to be their largest coaster. And it looks like a good investment for Legoland. It looks like a really fun attraction. We've not had anything like this in the UK where it's been dueling boomerang coaster, and I cannot wait for it to open. And finally in the news today, Europa-Park have announced that Voltron Nevera, which is going to be powered by Rimac, is going to open on the 23rd of March 2024. And we have been waiting for this attraction to open for quite a while actually. Obviously it's only gone vertical like throughout the whole of this year, but it's been in the pipeline for a number of years now. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically Europa-Park is a theme park, a world-class theme park located in Germany. It is actually owned by German manufacturer Mack Rides. It's owned and operated by the Mack family. Obviously Mack Rides is a roller coaster manufacturer known for manufacturing various roller coasters around the world, such as Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, Hyperia at Thorpe Park, which is opening next year. And it's a really well-known manufacturer, and they have such a rich history as well. And the one thing that makes them unique compared to other manufacturers. They have their own theme park, which is essentially where a lot of people say that Europa-Park is essentially Mack Rides' testing ground, because even though it's got coasters from other manufacturers there, Mack Rides obviously do put a lot of their new types of rides to the test. Like that was where I believe that's where their first multi-launch coaster went with Blue Fire. It's where their first spinning coaster went with Euromere. Obviously, it's going to be home to the brand new Voltron coaster, which is, I think, it's a variation of the Big Dipper coaster, but I'm not sure if they're calling it the Striker coaster, but I'm not sure if that's just a rename of the Big Dipper model or if it's a completely brand new ride type altogether. But it looks very similar to the Big Dipper coaster, in which it has like 4 across seating with just four rows per train, and it's got like all weird elements. But this one's a bit more experimental than the previous ones, like Lost Gravity at Wallaby Holland. So this one's going to feature a beyond vertical launch, or a vertical launch, I think, which is I don't think it's ever been done before. As well as a switch track, turntable, lots of really crazy elements. Lots of really innovative and technological elements on this attraction as well. I believe it's going to have 3 launches in total, which is pretty mental. It looks like a really fun layout. Obviously, the whole theme of the attraction is opening as part of a brand new themed line, themed to Croatia. And this is all themed around Nikola Tesla's inventions and experiments with electricity. It's a really cool theme, and it looks like a really fun ride. Obviously, it's quite a long layout as well. Obviously, there's got a lot of really cool elements in there, so many different inversions, and I cannot wait for Voltron to open at Europa-Park on the 23rd of March next year. So that is it for this week's episode of Coaster News. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, then please make sure to like and subscribe, and comment what you would like to see in the next video. Bye!